Okay, show me then. Show me how unstiff you are. Dance, let's see. Yes, that's what I said. I said everybody, let's go. Show me. Let's see. Exactly, that's what I said. All of you. And I'm going to follow you right from the opposite way. Let go. Five, six, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, how? There. Yes. Yeah. Okay, go. She's shown you now, so you do it. We've got 2 minutes, so just do it quickly. There we go. Hi, guys. Oh, wow, there we go. Teach him how to do it. Okay, great. You can take a seat. I have given up on you and dancing. Let's learn about hospitality. I tried to do it as a singular. I tried to do it as group work, but it's okay. I'll educate you how to dance later. But for now, let's listen on the education on what is serious. I wanted to start it off like that to make you really relaxed. And so your brains are open. This space is a very creative space. I need you to think of it with a very open mind. I too was once a student at some point, and I'm so thankful that I listened in on how the industry works, because there's so much to it. And you are at a stage where you want to learn and see the different ways of how things can work. But especially in the day and age that you are all in, don't think that social media is for fun. If you're going to get into the hospitality space, be careful what you're sharing online, because you're going to be facing a lot of people who are going to be coming in and out to meet you. And the last thing you want is somebody who says, "Aren't you that girl who?" on there. But I'm not going to break down all of that on reputation for you. There's other people who are going to speak. But please listen very carefully. Open your mind. There's a lot to explore in the industry, and I hope you will pick out something from here. Now, this is brought to us by FHS Africa, and they do have a partner, an education partner, which is called Millet Group. If you do not know them, please write it down. That's the first thing you can write. And please go and Google them and find out what they do, because you might find, a career there of interest. They actually are going to have a representative here on stage. So the first 2 people that I'm going to bring up here on stage are going to be teaching you just about reputation and also what it takes to start right at the bottom and then grow yourself up to GM level, GM being general manager. Please, I beg you, don't be the people who want instant success. Success takes time. If you follow the steps gradually, then you will get there. It takes patience, it takes time, but it's sustainable if you do it the right way. So please help me, and you must make a noise, ne? For all our speakers, because they've really prepared for you. Please help me welcome on stage Jeremy Maggs and Moshi Perera.
Tommy, thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody.
the head
Very
off?
warm welcome. Thank you so much for inviting us to speak to you today. I want to start my session, and I know that we're very pressed for time. I want to start my session with 2 quick stories. You don't have to take notes now, because these are stories that are going to set up what I want to tell you. Then I've got a presentation which we can put up. There we go. Every guest is a broadcaster. That's what I do for a living every single day. I'm on the radio back in South Africa. I used to be a television news anchor. And copies of this presentation are freely available for you to use. About 2 years ago, colleagues, I came to Nairobi. I was addressing another conference, and coincidentally, I stayed at this hotel. I didn't think I would come back. I had a marvelous time here. I arrived yesterday for the conference, and it was either the general manager or the concierge came up to me. This was 2 years ago that I was here, and I can imagine how many guests there have been since then. And he looked at me, and he remembered my name, Mr. Maggs, and then he asked me if I still enjoyed the fish. I think it's talipa, which is the fish, which I do, by the way. And I could not believe that 2 years on, he remembered all of that. And I was immediately well disposed to this hotel group because I felt special, I felt individual. There's a lesson for you. As you go into this hospitality space, every single person that you're going to talk to is going to be someone special in your life. Very difficult to deal with sometimes when you have this huge footfall of people coming through. That's the positive story, friends. The negative story is another hotel in another country, neither of which will be named. And I remember going to this hotel. I was warmly welcomed. I was shown a particularly nice room, and everyone was charming and delightful to me. They were absolutely thrilled to welcome me. Later, I went into the bathroom, and I picked up a hand towel, and folks, it did not smell good. In fact, it smelt rank, and I was a little put off. But these things happen. Later, I went down to the front desk, and I complained about it. I said, just a little bit concerned, and I was very nice. I'm not a person who raises his voice or anything like that. And I just pointed it out to them. And they acknowledged and went out for dinner or lunch or whatever the case was. I came back, and absolutely nothing had been done. I complained again, in the expectation that at some point someone would knock on my door and that they would come and give me a fresh towel, but nothing happened. So I just let it go. I couldn't be bothered. I had more important things to worry about. But I did mention it to people. And those people mentioned it to other people. And those people mentioned it to other people. So the circle got wider and wider. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the custodian when you eventually aspire to becoming a general manager. You are the custodian of that brand. Nothing was done. What was the inherent danger? It didn't happen, but it could have, because this was long before the advent of social media. I'm a lot older than all of you. This was but had we been operating in a time like this, this could have hit TripAdvisor and any number of other big platforms that speak about the hospitality industry. It's about dealing with issues as soon as they become apparent to you. So I have put together, in the time that I've got, 7 ideas on reputation in your industry. Because as you climb up that ladder, as my colleague Moshi tells you a little bit later, how you're going to progress from a young student in this wonderful sector to hopefully running your own hotel or your own hotel group or your own lodge or whatever the case is. You are fundamentally the custodian of that brand. You're on 24 hours a day. I was speaking to you a little earlier today. The life that you have chosen to live. Moshi, I think you said life in a fishbowl. That's what you said. Welcome to the fishbowl, everyone, because that's the profession that you have chosen. So, let me put up a few thoughts for you. All right. The first, folks, is what is reputation? And remember I said to you, you are the custodian of your brand. It's built on moments. The moment I walked into this hotel today and someone recognized me from 2 years ago, That's what counted. I'm telling you the story. You will tell someone else that story. Communication is not something that you outsource. It's something that every single person in the hotel takes care of, from the front desk to the general manager. Because if you don't manage it, as the slide says, it's going to manage you. And if you get all of that right, every single day in the fishbowl, 24 hours a day, trust will become your most valuable asset. So the first thing you've got to remember, folks, you're always dealing with reputation. Let's move on to the next one. It's all about experience, isn't it? Every single touch point is an experience. The moment a person walks into the hotel, I'm not staying at this hotel at the moment, I'm staying in another one not too far from here. The moment I arrived the day before yesterday, I was warmly welcomed by the parking attendant. I was ushered through. There was a smile on everybody's face. Every single touch point in your organization, as you become part of that organization at the beginning, at the early layer, and as you build towards something a little bit more senior, every single one builds or erodes your reputation. Folks, you've got to deal with the problem. You can't shut up, okay? Not responding to the smelly towel can erode your reputation. It sends a message. And it's all about consistency. Managing a reputation is about consistency. It's about constant evaluation. It's about where you can improve. Guests notice a pattern, not just one incident. And if they are engaging with one incident, they are looking for a pattern. Expectations matter. I've always found in any relationship that I have with the service industry, underperformance is better and rather over-deliver. But you've got to set the expectations. I don't know where all of you are going to work in your particular disciplines. Folks, I know very little about the hospitality industry, the machinations of the hospitality, the ins and outs. I don't know a lot about that. What I do know, because I do this professionally, is I do know how to manage reputation. But it's critical that you set the expectation of every guest the moment they arrive. You've got to plot a guest journey. When they walk into that room, when they walk into the bar or into the restaurant or into the parking or into the gym, how are things going to turn out for them? And often, folks, it's about attention to detail. A remembered name. My name was remembered. I'm still basking in the glow of that. A warm towel. Not a smelly towel, a warm towel, okay? It's what guests are going to talk about, and that's what they're going to post about, okay? Folks, I am probably old enough to be a grandparent to many of you, and I'm not going to speak with any authority on the ins and outs of digital and social media. But this is what I've learned, having spoken to people within the industry. I do a lot of consultation work with the Millat Group. Again, as Tommy said a little earlier, please look them up. A big player in Southern Africa, and hopefully, over time, a big player on the continent. Responding to reviews is not about the reviewer. It's about the people that are reading the replies. You've got to move quickly. Speed matters in this business. And I hate social media. And unfortunately, in my job, a public-facing job as a broadcaster in South Africa, I have to do this stuff. But it amplifies everything. And in your world, the world that you are going into, it is going to amplify every single thing, because people come into hotels and into restaurants, and often they are looking for the negative. Good experiences and bad experiences travel equally fast. It's all about online reputation. Folks, at some point in your careers, you're going to have to manage a crisis. Every single person in this room is going to manage a crisis. You'll either be part of the team managing it, you will be the leader of that crisis team, or you will be someone within the crisis who's having to respond to orders. The higher up you go, as you become a general manager of your particular hotel. And I have 5 rules of crisis management. It's about getting in front of the narrative, as we say in the business. Say something about the crisis before somebody else says it. If there's a crisis, you cannot deny it. You have to acknowledge it and then explain it. People want to feel that they've been heard. Don't be afraid to take responsibility. I'm so glad, by the way, to see you taking notes. I said to you, you can have this. We'll get this presentation to you in one way or another. But keep taking notes. It's a good thing. Okay? Students should be taking notes. That's what I was told. Take responsibility if you can. In managing a crisis, one credible voice is important. And the one thing that I do professionally with a number of different organizations back home is that we run crisis drills. When you go into an organization, you do a risk analysis and what are the big things that can happen to your organization. Crisis communication is what you're going to be doing. Folks, it's also about internal communication, isn't it? Okay? So, all too often in an organization, in my experience, people talk about the outward focusing audience, or to use fancy reputation management terms, the stakeholders, but don't ever forget the importance of your own employees. Culture starts on the inside. And you, as you go into that organization, as you eventually lead that organization, you will know what kind of culture you're wanting to build. How you speak internally shapes how guests are treated externally. There's a symbiotic relationship between the two. And you've got to train for communications. Often people dismiss this thing called soft skills. Talking, managing conversation, designing the narrative, looking after the brand. It all sounds very soft. I remember when I told my late father that this was the kind of world that I was going into. He was a banker, and I think he was very disappointed. I think he wanted me to do a real job. But I think this is a real job. It's absolutely critical. You've got to have the right people around you. It's about having a collegial attitude with people who are around you, people that respect you and that you respect. Because if you can create that attitude of mutual respect within your organization, you're going to do a whole lot better. Folks, I think I've got 2 more slides to show you. Okay. Folks, leaders have got to be visible, particularly when things go wrong. Back to the fishbowl analogy, which I'm sure you'll talk about a little bit later. But someone in the hospitality business is on the floor. Not lying on the floor. You can lie on the floor later, but working the floor. They've got to put their nose into every aspect of the business. That is vital. And you've got to be authentic about it, because we can all spot inauthenticity. Any decision you make has got to be aligned with the broader values. That's pretty self-explanatory. Because every single decision that you make, whether it's a towel in a room or whether it's an acquisition of another property, either builds or erodes your reputation. And obviously the best communication strategy is this constant drive for operational excellence. Folks, as I start to come to the end of my little presentation, I don't envy the kind of world that you have chosen to get into. I think it is exhausting. I think it's torturous. I think people are always going to be in your face. It's going to be very hard. But if you can get these prescripts right, if you can get those rules right, if you can build that foundation, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. So folks, I want you to take one thing away from you today. In hospitality, you're not just managing a room or you're managing a restaurant. What are you managing? You're managing trust. Because the moment I trust you as a customer, I will come back, I will talk about you. I have told you a story today about a hotel. Inevitably, some of you will repeat that. And that builds trust. Trust is not built overnight. Trust is built brick by brick. Trust is the business. You're going into the hospitality business, but you're also going into the trust business. I look forward to talking to you a little bit later. I said at the start, every single guest is a broadcaster. You are managing reputation in an age of reviews. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope something has penetrated. I look forward to the conversation a little bit later.
Thank you, Jeremy. I thought people in the news business are good at timekeeping. You've left me about 8 minutes to go through my presentation. Okay, boys and girls, thank you very much. My name is Moshi Perera. I'm the general manager here at the Hyatt Regency in Nairobi. I also oversee 10 hotels across 6 countries. So what Jeremy touched on reputation and brand, is very important. And the fishbowl life he's referring to is what you will be when you become a general manager or indeed a leader in hospitality. It was interesting just watching the body language in the beginning when you were all asked to do the dance. You know, there was people who were shy, there was hiding, and they were kind of doing a bit of a groove, but hey, I hope nobody sees me. Guys, when you get into this business, you're going to be on stage. You're going to have to get over and overcome the fears that you have, and that's the only way you're going to get forward. So, in my role, I'll talk a little bit about how to climb the ladder, what to expect, what you should and shouldn't do, and I'll try and relate it to part of my journey, but also to understand that how I came through the ranks is very different to what you will have to go through. So I want you to have a comparison so you can see. I'll highlight, what it takes to build a successful career, and it's beyond the traditional career route, highlighting the importance of creating what Jeremy was talking about, the memorable experiences that the guests will see, which you have to create, and the evolving skills and capabilities that you will need in leadership, and how the adaptability that he was talking about and the mindset and the continuous growth is what's going to lead you to long-term success. So, why a career in hospitality? Hospitality in the past has been shaped on service. It's evolved to be about creating unforgettable moments, which again relates to what Jeremy was talking about. And the people behind them are you. Today, careers are built on the experiences, and careers are built on the identities that you create. Now, getting into the business, the question you need to ask yourself, why do you want to join the hospitality industry? And what do you want from it? And you're at the right place to ask that question right now. 1 in 10 jobs in the world are in the travel and tourism business. 1 in 10, globally. However, the underserved communities often don't have an opening into the industry. Now, this is a little bit about my journey. I graduated after 4 years of university and education, spending a lot of time and effort, and I was sitting in a room like you are, looking for my first job. It was also a similar situation where there was a crisis in the Middle East, and jobs were very hard to come by. So here I am in the big wide world, having had a degree and now ready to take on my first managerial job. I've made it. I couldn't find one. The only job I found was in front office as a receptionist. And you know, that was the most humbling thing that could have happened to me. Because I had to start at the bottom. And I had to learn the business. And that's where I started building the foundation of understanding the experience, gaining knowledge. The second stage was obviously promotion to a supervisory level. Now that expanded my exposure a little bit, and it was my first experience of responsibility. I was responsible for someone, something, and it was my first experience of accountability. I was accountable for what happened. The next stage was the next promotion as a night manager. Now, that brought a different level of experience. It brought pressure, because here I was, a 20-something-year-old, managing a very large hotel at night where everything happens, and I was now put in an uncomfortable zone. Remember I told you about the dancing? I was now out of my comfort zone a little bit, because I wasn't dealing with front office. I was now dealing with areas in F&B, in finance, in security, keeping the building secure. So it brought me to be a more cross-functional and brought a little bit of mobility. The next stage was the front of house manager. Again, as a leader, you're under pressure, and it's one of the first leadership roles I had, where I had multiple departments and responsibility and accountability again. Next step, you climb the scale, the leadership ladder, and then you come into the bigger corporate world where you're now setting strategy, and you're now dealing with profit and loss statements, money, finance. Then you come to the ultimate prize, which you're aspiring to, which is to become the general manager. That is owning the business. The buck stops with you in every shape and form. My journey took about 12 years. Is that quick? Is that slow? Time will tell. But one thing that you need to have is a lot of patience. The industry and career doesn't go in a straight line. Although I showed you a straight line, I did dart in between the different roles. So you have to be very adaptable. And adaptability is preferred over predictability. Right? You don't grow in a straight line. And just remember early on, like you are where you are right now, don't chase titles. Don't chase titles. They will come. What you need to chase is exposure and learning. The learning velocity is what's going to catapult you forward. So, the question to ask yourself is, what do you want to be? Or is it, what problems do I want to be good at solving? Now, for me to go in this role, there are certain things I had to do and choices I had to make. I had to say yes to roles where I felt I wasn't ready, and that goes back to being uncomfortable. One of the biggest decisions I made was moving to a foreign country. Again, leaving my friends, family, my network behind, going to a new culture, a new place, a new society, a new set of rules. And the only thing that I had with me in my armory was my knowledge and experience of the business. That was very uncomfortable, and that was something that probably shaped me for the future. I learned probably in the first 6 months in that position more than I learned in 3 years previously. So that underscores that growth starts where comfort ends. So in the 90s, the general manager was often seen primarily as an operator. I aspired to be an operator. It was focused on efficiency, standards, and of course, there's the financial element as well. And leadership in those days tended to be top-down, very hierarchical, and had clear boundaries of control. Roll forward today, the modern day requirement has changed significantly. The world you're going into to become a GM is very different to the world I started in. It's changed quite a lot, but fundamentally, the core of leadership has not changed. While as a GM, you're still looking for results and still financial, it has become more people and purpose-driven. People and purpose-driven. So what are the key shifts? It's gone from authority to being an industry of influence. It's no longer about giving instructions. It's about building teams. As Jeremy alluded to, build good teams, strong people around you. And especially when you get into leadership, you'll be building teams across multiple generations. You might be a young man, but you might be guiding and directing someone much senior to you. So these are understandings that you will have to have. It has changed from operations to culture building. A GM today are custodians of culture. They create an environment where you, colleagues, will feel valued, engaged, and just as important as delivering financial results. There's a greater focus today on emotional intelligence. What do I mean by that? Understanding people, showing empathy, leading with care, and these are now critical core competencies and capabilities that you need to become a GM. Adaptability and agility, and what Jeremy was talking about, how things have changed. The pace of change is incredible. Technology, AI, guest expectation, global disruption. These are the things that leaders need to be able to fix. So to do that, you need to be flexible, very adaptive, and be able to respond quickly. Today's GMs also need to develop talent. You're expected to coach, mentor, guide, and actively grow future leaders. You need to be growing your next generations as you come through. And that's on top of managing performance. So a modern general manager is not just about running a hotel. It's about building a culture. It's about developing people and leading with a purpose. So in order to help you, I've created sort of 6 key areas that perhaps you could focus on. So if I could break it down to lessons. Lesson number 1, say yes early. Most careers are defined and they come before you are fully prepared. That's why I said before, like getting out of your comfort zone, that's something you have to actively be ready to do. Growth happens in discomfort. For example, my new country, new roles. If you wait till you're ready, then it's already too late. You missed the bus. So, the main lesson here is confidence comes after action, not before it. Lesson number 2, think globally. Working across cultures has taught me more than anything a classroom could have taught me. And that's something you will have to deal with because our industry is very global. Success also requires cultural intelligence, adaptability, and emotional awareness. So the takeaway here is learn how to work with people from different countries and who are different to you, because that's your superpower. That's what's going to make you successful. Lesson 3, understanding the business. Early careers often focus too much and too narrowly on function. Great leaders who progress fast, they understand revenue drivers, cost structures, customer behavior, and a lot of that now is available as data, and it's very data-driven. So don't ask, what is my role when you get to that opportunity? Don't ask, what is my role? Ask, how does my role create value? People, our strategy, the human capital element is very important. You don't build great businesses, you build great teams. The teams make you successful. You shape behavior. Behavior translates into results. Leadership is not about control. It's about inspiring, inspiration, belief, and creating accountability. Importantly, it's about developing others. Have successful people around you. That's what's going to make you successful. Balancing decisions. Every leadership decision is a balance. You have short-term versus long-term. You have risk versus stability. You have people versus performance. Good leaders are not always right. It might surprise you, but good leaders are not always right. But they are always accountable. They will make decisions, but they will take accountability for what they do. Lesson number 6, keep reinventing. Industries evolve, especially now. The digital age, AI, is a huge transformation. Just to give you an example, does anybody know here, in this generation, know what a blackberry is? It's not a fruit. You know what blackberry is? What is it? Do you have one? Why not? Huh? It's outdated. It's outdated. Very good. It's outdated. Why is it outdated? Because they didn't transform. The transformation was not there to keep up with the change and the demand. And that's what can keep you falling behind. So always, always, never fall behind. Learn every day in what you do. I'm learning every day. Every encounter I have is a learning experience. It's evolving. If you don't evolve, you'll become a blackberry. Some advice in finishing that you might not always hear. Your first job will not define you, but your attitude will. Find mentors, people to look up to, people to learn from, but also be coachable. Be open to learn, be open to the feedback that you get, because as leaders, you're supposed to mentor and build those people. Build a reputation early, what Jeremy was talking about. Reliability and trust are the key. And remember, and one thing you must always have, because it's never going to be a cushy ride, be positive. You'll have great days, you'll have bad days, but you have to be positive. And be solutions focused. It's very easy to say, this is the problem, that's a problem, but find the solutions. Opportunities will always come to people who are trusted and not just talented. If you have talent and trust, you're 10 steps ahead already. What are the future demands in industry? It's about experience. It's about technology. It's about integration. It's about sustainability. It's about responsibility. Future leaders must think across business, people, and innovation. Be multi-dimensional and not one-dimensional. So in closing, I'll sum up with a little bit of humor about being a GM. Jeremy alluded to it. It's a fishbowl life. You're on a stage. Everybody's watching you, what you do, what you don't do, how you do it. So I remember one morning, quite clearly, having to deal with a problem at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had an issue with a guest at the front desk. I had a team member who needed some support. I had an operational challenge. I had an owner who wanted a response. And this was all happening at the same time. And it was before 7 a.m. So if you want to be a general manager, at that moment it struck me. If you want to be a general manager, it's like running a small city. You're the mayor, you're the conductor, you're the psychologist, you're the emergency services, you're the host, all at once. You're expected to notice everything, solve problems before they even exist. Inspire your team and somehow make all of that look effortless, and that's before having your first cup of coffee. So if that relates to you, and you like this dynamic environment, solving problems that you didn't know existed, working with people from all walks of life, and making an impact every day in people's lives, yours, your colleagues, the guests, then maybe one day being a general manager is for you. Thank you.